Steel hooves thunder across a moonlit plain, flattened by tens of thousands of Persian laborers. 200,000 torches shiver in the wind, an empire's heartbeat, while 47,000 Macedonians wait in disciplined silence. At dawn, a 25-year-old king will gamble every mile he has marched, every friend he has buried, every tale that future ages might tell. If he wins, Persia falls. If he fails, the dream of conquering the known world dies before breakfast. Welcome to Gaugamela, the day Alexander reached for eternity. The road to Mesopotamia had been paved with cities that once imagined themselves unconquerable. After Issus, Alexander spent 2 relentless years shattering Phoenician fleets, dragging siege towers across deserts, outthinking Gaza's engineers, and accepting the golden crowns of Egypt. Each victory whispered the same warning: Darius still breathes. Persia's great king might have fled Issus, but he had not surrendered. Secure behind Babylon's walls, he conscripted men from the Nile to the Oxus, scythed war wagons from the Zagros forges, and elephants armored in bronze from India's borders. His marshals leveled miles of pasture near a hamlet called Gaugamela, Camel's House, to create a killing field made for chariots. There, Darius vowed, the invader would be unmade. Alexander marched out of Egypt with barely 47,000 troops. Many veterans crippled by tropical fevers, others awed by a pharaoh's coronation, yet unpaid for months. Skeptics muttered that the king had lost his mind. Why drive deeper into Asia with no allies, no fresh reinforcements, and the Tigris at his back? Alexander's answer was simple. The faster the strike, the shorter the war. Stall, and Persia's gold would bribe half the world. Finish Darius, and the empire collapses like a gutted lion. So he marched through Palestine's baking wadis, over the snows of the Syrian gates, and down into the furnace of northern Mesopotamia, always scouting ahead with Thracian horse, always probing villages for grain, always promising his men they would never fight 2 decisive battles for the same prize. When jaded veterans asked how one army beats thousands, Alexander pointed to the sun-scorched horizon and said, "By choosing where the god of fear rests his spear." September 30th, 331 BC. The Macedonian column camps at the ruined Assyrian city of Arbela. Night falls under a sickle moon. Scouts gallop back with breathless news. Darius is 20 miles west, encamped on a plain scraped flat as a smith's anvil. Reports claim he commands at least 200,000 infantry, 40,000 cavalry, 200 scythed chariots, and 15 armored elephants. Some whisper 500,000. Alexander gathers his companion captains, spreads sand on a bronze shield, and diagrams tomorrow's storm with a dagger's point. The Persians have length, not depth, he says, carving lines. We will refuse the left, advance the right, draw them wide, then shatter their middle. Parmenion, the cautious 60-year-old strategist, warns that the army's flank might be enveloped. Alexander replies, "A single heart can pump courage into 10,000 arms. Theirs is brittle. Break the heart and limbs will follow." That night, Alexander tours every fire. He kneels beside Thracian mercenaries sharing stale figs, claps a debt-ridden phalangite on the shoulder, and loosens the reins of a homesick Thessalian's horse so it can graze. Each gesture buys an ounce of loyalty. Loyalty compounds into fanaticism. Across the plain, Darius paces inside a pavilion the size of a temple, servants waving peacock fans, astrologers reading omens. The stars, they claim, favor Persia. Yet, the king cannot forget the sight of Macedonian lances inches from his chariot at Issus. He resolves to hold position, let the enemy come, and grind them beneath sheer mass. First light reveals two worlds. East, a mural of color and noise. Median cavalry in scarlet, Babylonian spearmen in indigo, Egyptian archers in linen white, Bactrian horse archers with 6-foot bows, Ethiopians in leopard skins, and the dark hulks of elephants shifting like living fortresses. Centered atop a chariot plated in gold stands Darius, shaded by a parasol of purple silk, surrounded by the immortals, whose silver apple spear butts flash like a wave of moons. Between the front and second ranks wait the scythed chariots, each axle protruding razor blades 3 feet long, horses armored from brow to chest. West, a smaller, harder sculpture. Alexander arrays the Phalanx 6 brigades deep, sarissas angled 45 degrees, sunlight glancing off iron heads. To their right, he masses 2,000 companion cavalry, 800 Hypaspists, slingers from Rhodes, and Agrianian javelin men. On the left, Parmenion deploys Thessalian horse and Greek allied infantry, anchoring the wing on rocky scrubland near the Beaumotus River. Reserves? There are none. Every Macedonian knows his place. Every place is do or die. Alexander lifts a bronze helmet crowned with snowy feathers so that even men in the last rank can spot their king. He mounts Bucephalus, the black stallion snorting steam. Trumpets cry. The oblique advance begins, not toward the Persian center, but diagonally right, as though the invaders intend to ride off the battlefield entirely. Darius frowns. His left flank, commanded by the satrap Bessus, mirrors Alexander's drift to avoid being outflanked. The Persian line elongates. Dust clouds rise where Bactrian cavalry gallops sideways, wheeling to keep pace. Archers fan out. But the longer the line stretches, the thinner it becomes. Infantry detachments sprint to fill gaps. Orders clash. Horns echo contradictory signals. Sensing confusion, Darius unleashes his scythed chariots straight at the Macedonian phalanx's exposed front. 200 war wagons scream forward, wheels hissing, blades spinning. From the Macedonian ranks comes no fear, only discipline. At a pre-signal, soldiers open corridors. Light troops stationed ahead pelt the charging teams with javelins, slingshot stones, and arrows. Horses rear, scream, and tumble. Some chariots skid harmlessly through empty lanes to be netted by Agrianian javelineers waiting behind. Others veer sideways into friendly Persian cavalry, shredding armored thighs and camel legs in gruesome sprays. A few make contact, carving bloody troughs in the phalanx's first rank. Yet the giant spears close instantly, forest regrown, as files behind step forward to plug the wounds. The Persian plan's keystone snaps. Darius signals for his left-wing cavalry, Bessus's Bactrians, and allied Saka skirmishers to flood around Alexander's right, encircle, and crush. Instantly, Alexander counters. He extends his own right further, wheeling the companions into a razor-edged diamond wedge, Hypaspists on their heels, Agrianian lights screening the flanks. The two forces gallop on converging arcs, dust boiling under hooves. Lances crash like thunder into wicker and bronze. Macedonian zistons punch through quilted coats, snapping on impact. wielders switching to kopis swords without pause. Bactrian riders loose arrows point blank, slicing gaps in the companion line. At the hinge of both formations, Alexander fights eyes up, white plume unmistakable, slashing, barking names. Perdiccas left, Hephaestion, wheel. A spear scrapes his shoulder. Bucephalus kicks a Saka archer through the chest. Chaos paints the air crimson. But the companions are trained for wedge warfare. Pressure at the point concentrates shock. Those behind funnel force. The Persian wing buckles inward. Yet victory is not immediate. Far out on the Macedonian left, Mazias, commander of Darius's right flank, sees Alexander fully committed and hurls 10,000 Armenian and Median horse at Parmenion. They crash like a tide against Thessalian shields. Dust rises so thick messengers lose bearings. Parmenion's couriers gallop toward Alexander begging aid, but the king is knee-deep in his own maelstrom. Then comes the sliver of fate historians replay for millennia. In trying to match Alexander's outward pivot, Bessus has opened a seam between his cavalry and the Persian infantry center, where Greek mercenary hoplites hold firm under immortal supervision. The gap yaws wider, just enough for 1,000 hooves. Alexander reforms the companions, shouts a last rally. There is the royal heart, and drives straight through the fault line. What follows is less battle than detonation. Companion lances spear deep into the mercenary phalanx's exposed flank. Hypaspists pour through. Macedonian phalangites, seeing an opening, surge over their own dead. Sarissas lowered like a thorn wall propelled by rage. Ajaxes of Larissa cleave a path with a double-bladed axe. Seleucus, future founder of dynasties, drags a Persian standard-bearer from his saddle and plants the starburst of Macedon in the dust. The Persian center, compressed by its own still advancing rear ranks, cannot pivot shields fast enough. It implodes, spilling bodies into the breach. Alexander spurs for the gilded chariot where Darius stands. Distance shrinks beneath Bucephalus's pounding stride. 40 yards, 20, 10. Chroniclers disagree on what the king saw. Some claim Darius's eyes met his, wide with disbelief. Others, that a dying guard's thrown javelin forced Bucephalus to rear, granting the great king a heartbeat's chance to flee. What none dispute is the result. Darius's reins jerk, his horses wheel, and the royal chariot lurches eastward. Palace guards scramble to keep pace. A gasp ripples down the Persian line that no trumpet could silence. The king is running. Morale is a thread. Once frayed, it unravels at light speed. Infantry, who moments earlier pushed resolutely, now glance over shoulders, see dust of royal flight, and feel their stomachs cave. The immortals close around the escaping chariot, but their polished discipline cannot mend a psychic fracture. Bessus's cavalry, still tangling with Hypaspists on the edge, senses the shift and begins withdrawing in disorder. On the opposite flank, Mazias's men press so hard against Parmenion that they almost succeed, until rumor from the center spreads like plague. We are abandoned. Parmenion's battered Thessalians regroup, smell Persian fear, and countercharge. Alexander, realizing the hinge is broken, pivots half his companions leftward, galloping behind Persian lines to slam Mazias in the rear. The Persian right wing compresses between hammer and anvil. Horses scream, men trample comrades. Chariots wedge sideways, their scythes mangling friend and foe alike. By early afternoon, organized resistance is rubble. Clouds of fugitives stream toward the Zab River, shedding shields for speed. Macedonian cavalry pursues until exhaustion. Alexander himself breaks off when Bucephalus, foam-crusted, flanks bleeding, stumbles in a pothole. Even conquerors must let legends breathe. When the sun droops low, Gaugamela is a furnace of silence punctured by groans. Persian dead carpets the earth in tiger-striped trousers, silk tunics, gleaming scale. Elephants lie like toppled towers, their mahouts crushed beneath. Scythed chariots burn in spitting piles of cedar, oil, and charred flesh. Macedonian casualties count in the low thousands, grim but survivable for a veteran corps hardened by 8 years campaigning. Alexander walks the killing ground, helmet off, face streaked in sweat and soot, greeting wounded companions by name, issuing coins for heroic slaves who shielded masters, ordering captured Persian physicians to treat any soldier first, nationality second. He pauses by a motionless Hypaspist, still clutching a blood-slick shield, kneels, and covers the man's face with his own crimson cloak. Parmenion finds him there, eyes reflecting torchlight. "Sire, we must seize Babylon before Darius rallies." Alexander rises, voice hoarse. "Tomorrow, tonight belongs to the fallen." Throughout the night, Macedonians search bodies for plunder. Silver pentagrams, lapis rings, embroidered sashes, their king levying only a modest fifth share, refusing personal bounty. In a captured royal tent, he discovers Darius's bow, shield, and chariot, emblems of office. He lays them before the gods, declaring Asia leaderless by right of arms. Fleeing east with a fraction of his guard, Darius reaches Arbela before dawn, commandeers fresh mounts, and rides toward the Zagros gates. In Babylon, satraps debate surrender. In Susa, treasurers weigh loyalty against self-interest. In Persepolis, palace eunuchs send messengers to gauge Macedonian terms. The empire's backbone, prestige, has snapped. Yet still, Darius clings to hope. If he can raise Bactrian levies, rally Scythian tribes, choose ground in the high steppes, maybe the old magic will return. History will deny him that chance, but on the night of Gaugamela, he cannot see his fate, only the road unspooling into darkness. 2 days later, Babylon's bronze gates swing inward to trumpet fanfare. Priests present golden keys. Citizens scatter flower petals. Alexander decrees no pillage, pays troops from captured treasury wagons, and prays at Babylon's ziggurat to Marduk, signaling he conquers peoples, not gods. He sends letters to Greek states proclaiming that vengeance for Xerxes' invasion is complete, invites philosophers to join him, and dispatches shiploads of coins back to Macedon to erase his father's debts. But even as he feasts beneath Babylonian stars, maps of farther east hang beside his couch. Bactria, Sogdia, the shadowed realm called India. Gaugamela is finale only to those content with boundaries. To Alexander, it is prologue. When fires on the plain of Gaugamela finally guttered, they did more than illuminate corpses. They lit the fuse of a new age. In one sunrise, Alexander transformed from audacious invader to master of the world's richest empire. Persian satrapies cracked open like clay jars. Greek traders eyed markets once barred. Languages mingled on caravan routes that would soon carry Hellenistic art and mathematics from the Aegean to the Himalayas. The young king, who began as heir to a fragile Macedon, now styled himself Lord of Asia. Yet he wore the title like a traveler's cloak, useful, never final. For veterans of the Phalanx, Gaugamela became a living legend, whispered beside every winter campfire. How scythed chariots were swallowed by invisible lanes, how companion lances carved a royal road through flesh, how a single plume over Bucephalus's mane pointed the direction destiny chose. For Persia, it marked the sunset of Achaemenid splendor, but also the dawn of cultural fusion that would outlast both conqueror and conquered. And what of Alexander? As he rode east toward Babylon's glittering walls, he glanced back once at the smoking horizon, not to mourn, but to measure distance. Gaugamela proved no field was too wide, no enemy too numerous, no dream too ambitious. The world had boundaries. He had just redrawn them. Ahead lay rivers with names no Greek tongue yet spoke, and mountains whose snows had never known a Macedonian boot. The torch of empire passed into restless hands, and the night air hummed with a single inescapable promise: more.